Good evening. Let's begin with the webinar. First of all, I would like to thank you all for being here today and mention that we are recording the session so that those who were not able to attend the webinar will be able to watch it in the future. My name is Carlos Pascual. I'm the account manager of the solutions department in Innova. And the objective of this session is to introduce our solutions belonging to our suite in tools, show their functionality through a demo, and explain our site in Innova Online, and also state why it is essential when setting up and managing our solutions. Therefore, the agenda we are going to cover is the following. First, we will cover a brief introduction of the applications. We will perform a demo of each application, and then we will finish the session with a question and doubts section. As aforementioned, the suite in tools includes InTranslate, InData Manager, and in-apps analyzer. In today's session, we want to introduce all the solutions. Hence, the structures to follow is explanation of the solutions, and right after we will proceed with a demo for each of them. Now, let's focus on the explanation of the solution. As you may know, InTranslate is able to easily create XLF files in any language available. It also provides a fluent maintenance and update of the translation and possesses an automated service of translation. On the other hand, InData Manager modifies or deletes system records. With this solution, the user will be always able to make any modification or revision, or also elimination or reversion of deletion of the records. You can do all these modifications in a controlled way. It is important to mention that we have uploaded a specific location of the solution for each country available in Business Central. Therefore, we must install the location in which we want to perform the modifications, but also the generic version of InData Manager. In this case, this process is completed automatically, but we have to bear in mind that both the localization and the generic version of the tool must be installed in your system. Finally, in-apps analyzer is the solution that allows you to analyze in detail the objects of the system extensions. Also, it is possible to check which objects are used on each extension and which ones are free. You can also check the free gaps and if you have informed the ranges of your extensions. Furthermore, with the Check Ranges tool, you can check if a range enters or may conflict with objects or ranges of other extensions within our system. Let's show you now our website in Innova Online. As I mentioned before, this is crucial when setting up and managing the solution. In the main visual interface of the site, you may find all the solutions provided by our company. And if we go into each solution, the web page will display an introduction and a tutorial of the solution. Also, the user will be able to analyze the different plans available. And it is important to mention that all our solutions can be downloaded at Microsoft Marketplace App Source, and only by registering in our site, you will be able to utilize them. Now, we're going to log in with a real account for you to check what you can expect when downloading the solution. Here we have the customer ID, which is essential since afterwards we will have to introduce it in the setup wizard. In that visual interface, we can also check which solutions we have available in our user. You can see your plan and also the recommendations. Okay, now let's start with Interslate demo. As you may know, in previous versions of Navision, we had to use Caption ML to do translations in different languages. In this updated version, the translations are doing using an XLIF file. Therefore, through a XLIF file generated by the system, if we wanted to do a translation in different system, we should create these files each time with a different language. Our solution is able to do exactly this, but in an easier way. Through the same original file, we will be able to generate the translated one. Once we have downloaded our solution from App Source and we have completed the register in our site, the user will have its customer ID, which is going to be necessary when setting up the solution. Thus, the first thing to work on its configuration of the application. So, in my settings, we should choose a role in Translate, and when it's done, we should go to the configuration. Then we choose Translate. Yes. Okay, this is the first step. In this interface, we should add the ID we have get from our account. And after that, the user can check the languages that are already set up in the solution. We will need to introduce the ISO code, the ISO, currently to the language we want to utilize. Once this configuration is completed, we can start to do the translations. So, okay. But how does it work? Okay, when we own a solution, XLIF file is produced, which is composed by several nodes. These nodes are referencing all the captions, tooltips, or labels of the solution. Therefore, through these captions, tooltips, and labels, a XLIF file is created. If we want to do the translation on this, theoretically, we should copy these files, generate a new one, and modify its target, adding a new node to do this translation. Our solution can do all this process automatically. So, if you go to the role center, the first step is to get into the translations, and several actions will be displayed. Among these sections, update captions, load translation file. Okay, we go to solutions. We will work in all project test. I will remove all of this so it is clear. Okay. The first step is to get into the translations, and several actions will be displayed. Among these actions, we have update captions, load translations file, translate captions, and create translation files. Should be highlighted since they are quite important. Starting, let's imagine that we want to generate a translation file for one of our solutions. We don't have a translation done yet, hence we are going to use the update captions action. This tool is going to ask for the language in which we want to do the translation. In this case, yes. In this case, for example, we will use Spanish. Now it's asking for the base file, the one that the system is going to automatically generate, and once it is imported, it will create some lines in which we can start to function. Okay. Now, the information to be found in this section is notes, language, caption, and also the translate captions tool. In this later part, we will add the translations from which the translation file will be generated. To make a demonstration, I'm going to fill in the translation in these gaps. So I'm going to translate it into Spanish. Mi tabla. Okay, we are ready now to create the translation file using the functionality create translation file. Yes. The system will inform us that the file is going to be created, and now we will have to indicate the language, once again Spanish, and after that we will have to import the base translation file. Okay. Since from this one the additional translation files will be generated once the file is created, the system has suggested a name according to the solution and its language. So we save it. And now if we go to Visual Code, okay, if we save it, we can check in our application that a new translation has been generated. This new file includes the original target and the new translated one, which is what we needed to generate our translation file. I will clear it again in order to proceed with the demo. Yes. Okay. Another functionality we can use is, say we already have a solution with its translations, as for example this case, but we want to do some modifications. Instead of manually doing them here, we can load the translation file, doing action, load translation file. Yes, when loading it, the system is claiming that we have any data, it will be deleted. Once again, we indicate the language and introduce a translation file. The one we just created. Now the file is already loaded. If we want to do any modification, for example, I don't know, maybe 1515. It is necessary to generate a new translation file. So we go again to Actions, create translation file, indicating the language once again, Spanish. Okay. And selecting the base translation file in Spanish. Okay. And now we should be able to observe, okay, that the changes have been saved. Now we will clear it again to follow with the examples. Okay, delete. Another modality available is, for example, if we want to select a different language of the aforementioned, the process to follow would be quite similar. I mean, we don't have the translations done for any other language. What we want is to use a completely new language. Therefore, we can use the update caption tool, update captions. We'll have to select the new language, say, for example, Italian. And we import the base translation file. Once this is done, the system will create new lines for the Italian version. It is necessary that we fulfill these new translations, but I'm sorry, I don't know Italian. Through the Actions menu, we may find a functionality that can translate them automatically. Then we will use it. It is Translate Captions. Okay, now it's necessary to introduce the language and the name of the solution. Like this, we will choose Italian and all project test. Okay, those lines that are untranslated will be translated accordingly to do the translating system. The translations have already been done, and now we can generate the translation file in Italian. So we go to Actions, create translation file. Yes. Okay, to do so, we need to fulfill the code of Italian. Select the base translation file. And to do so, we need to fulfill the code Italian, select the base translation file, and we can save it with the suggested name. Okay. Once again, let's check it. Okay, we can check in our system that the file has been created with the proper translations in Italian. And let's go again. And in the role center interface, a detailed information about the usage is displayed. For example, the lines we have in our solution, whether they are translated or not, and in which solutions these translations are included. Clicking in solutions, we can get into the lines that that are translated, and also into the ones that are not translated. Go again to the role center. Besides in info translations, we will be able to select specific lines that should not be translated, check some developers kind of comments, and specify the number of characters to utilize in a translation. This is a part of the potential of the solution. It can be something small, but as we are in a demo, this is like a bit of what it can do. Now we will go to my settings and we will start the demo of the in-data manager. Okay, as aforementioned, this solution allows the user to do exactly the same as Object Designer used to do. If we need to change any information in a table, since it was not possible to do that from our system, we had to use Object Designer and create a new process to do this work for us. For this scenario, we have created a new solution that in a simpler way, it allows the user to do the modifications or deletions of records. It is mainly aimed to developers, since if there is any modification or deletion to do of any system record, we must know exactly what we have to do. So now we are likewise in translate. We will need a customer ID. In order to set up the solution. And this one should be put here. Okay. For security reasons, this ID must be introduced in every modification or deletion we do. So in the role center, we will find changes templates and deletions templates. In this case, we will start with the changes templates. Okay. The first 4 templates we are predetermined by our solution to do a modification or, for instance, a sales invoice. But for this demo, we have created an additional template to modify this one. It's simple information of a customer. But again, you can create as many templates as you want. So, for example, as you can see, table settings. Here you have all the tables, but we will use the simple one for the demo. So, okay, in order to get into it, we go to the table settings. In this interface, we can configure the tables, the filters, the files we want to modify. In this case, I want to modify the customer and touch it number and name. So if we go to related, changes metrics, and here from actions, we're going to load the data to modify. Okay, so we will go, as you saw, we're going to changes metrics, we load the data to modify, and now display it, we can see the data we have filtered to be modified, and we can do some modifications. Like this, for example, I will change the name of the company. And now we save this modification. In order to confirm this modification, we need to introduce the ID. Okay. Now we are going to check that the change has been completed. Let's see. Okay, that's correct. As you can see, the name of the customer has been modified. But imagine that you want to reverse that modifications because it has been a mistake or there is something wrong with it. We can go to the changes executed and revert the changes. So we go to actions. Sorry. Okay. Now in actions, we go to revert changes. Yes. It's asking again for the ID. And again, let's check if the changes have been reverted. And yes, as you can see, it's correct. The changes have been reverted. And now after checking the modifications, the changes, we'll go to check the deletions. Okay, For the deletions templates, we are going to use the same template we used for the modifications, but this time we want to delete a customer instead of modifying any information from it. So we go to customer, related, and type table setting. In this case, we only have to input the table we want to delete and the filters. If we don't filter it, in this case, the solution would display a list of all our customers. That's why we need to be careful with Data Manager. So if we want to relate it, deletions matrix. Now we have to load the data to delete, and it will display the information we have previously configured. So actions, load data to delete. Now we delete the records from our systems. And again, it will ask for the ID. Okay, let's check is the customer in the customer list. So we can see if the customer we have filtered and deleted is not here anymore. Okay, as you can see, a data incorporation has been deleted completely. And now we are going to revert that action. To do so, we have to go to, deletions executed. And in actions, revert deletions. Yes. And once again, it will ask for the ID. Okay, once more, let's check if the customer, if the elimination or the deletion has been reverted. Yes, it was successful. We have again a data incorporation of a customer. So this is a small view of what you can do here with our solution in Data Manager. And now we are going to work with the last one of the solutions. We go to my settings again, and we have to choose in Apps Analyzer. This one, just for your information, is completely free. You can use it for free. Also, in the previous two, in Translate and in Data Manager, you have a free plan, so you can try it, you can test, and after, if you think it is good for you, it can provide you some improvements in your business. You can subscribe in a plan. So we are now when the solution is installed in Apps Analyzer, the user can find a word that indicates the role, the profile of Apps Analyzer. Once this profile, one second, in Apps Analyzer, yes, you just have to put the ID and finish. So you will have it set it up. Okay, an important function is that in this interface we can check the amount of objects that are being used in range 5,000. Besides, in this work area, we can get into the setup menu, which shows the necessary configurations for the solutions and also the customer ID that we saw previously. And once again, the customer ID can be found in our web page, this one, once completing the registration. Just remind you, it's free. So another of its usage is the access to the extensions, as well as the extension ranges and the check ranges. So let's start with extensions. The first thing we are going to cover in this extension section. In this file, the system is going to show all the extensions that we have already set up. In this case, the base application and system application are predetermined in its solution, but we can also see the names of its extension, its version, the publisher, and a check indicating it is installed or not. To action. So one of the functionalities is to add ranges, which is going to be explained in detail in a minute. And through, if we go, for example, through interslate, we go to related, and we can have access to the dependencies used in each extension. As you can see, this extension is using the dependency of application, which is predetermined by Microsoft, and one named Innova Online. It is a solution that we use internally to create a connectivity with our website. Now, another tool is to check a list of all the objects included in each extension, and then we can see the files such as type of object, subtype or object, ID, the name of its caption, and the name of the extension containing all the objects. So another method to check the objects in detail is the one called show object details. In this case, we can observe we can observe the objects that are being used and the gaps we have free. It is really useful to know the gaps we have free in case we need to develop or use any object. It is interesting to know we have any gap free to use. The file free objects deals with the ranges, which I'm going to be explaining afterwards. In this case, we have a short of filter of the previous table classified in type of objects. And okay, let's check now the tool set ranges. Taking an example, for example, in Apps Analyzer, we have already established the ranges of the solution, which is going from this number to this number. And if we now go to check the object details, related, so object details, we can observe the object that are currently free. It is useful to know this information because if now we take the type of object page, we can see that 12 objects are being used, but there are 988 that are free. If we click on the objects that are free, the system is going to show from lowest to highest all the objects that we can utilize. which is also useful when introducing new objects. Now let's go back to the role center. Okay, this is regarding the information about extensions. But if our idea right now is to start a new solution, one of the hardest things to decide is is the range of objects to use, and especially which objects can we use in range 50,000. Since Object Designer is not available anymore, we can't be informed about the objects that are being used. Logically, we are willing to use this range 50,000 to develop our new extension, but most likely it is going to be in use. For this scenario, we created the check ranges tool, and we just have to put the initial and the final of the range. For example, 50,780 to 50,800. And it will display the object extensions and range extensions that are being already used with this range. As you can see, the system informs us that there are 4 objects in this range, also 1 extension in this range, but there isn't any extension ranges in conflict with this range. You can also see which ones are, and basically, all in all, this is what the solution can offer to you. It may be really useful for developers since Object Designer is not available, and this extension simplifies the task of checking the objects in our system extensions. So with this, we are finishing the demo. I don't know if maybe you have any question. You can use the chat or the questions mode. Anyway, if you have a further question or you want to get more information or try our solutions, you can send me an email you have here, and we will be more than pleased to work with you and to help you. Okay, no questions? Okay, so thank you everyone, and hope to see you in the next webinar. So take care and thank you for attending. Goodbye.